Okay, welcome to this video about the ICT curriculum, which is found in the programs of study on Alberta Education's website. Okay, and what we want is we want the information communication technology outcomes, and this applies for K to 12, unless there is a specific technology outcome mentioned in the subject outcome. So let's say math or science or language arts. So if in the outcome where it says, kids might write something and it says using technology, then it's right there in the regular outcome. You don't have to come here. But if it doesn't specifically mention the use of technology when you are going to use technology in a lesson or activity, you need to come here regardless of the grade level. So while we're here, we might also click on that. When we click on that, it gets us to this page, which only leads us to us wanting to go to this page. And within this page, and I'll make it a little bit bigger, there's a few things that are of note. Okay, one thing that you need to know is that there's sort of three strands or three pillars or whatever you want to call it. And I always refer to them, I don't refer to them in the long form. I usually refer to them as communicating, foundations, and productivity. Okay, just as long as you know that there's three strands and their first kind of like their short name, you'll be good. Okay, and then we want to scooch on down, and then the other thing that we will notice here is that they've broken out sort of the main general outcome, the general learner outcome, and we're going to actually use that a little bit in our citing of these ICT outcomes, which is a tiny bit different than what I've told you before, that we don't use general outcomes in lesson plans. But in this case, for the ICT outcome, I think you'll see why it's important in a second. Okay, and so there's all the other ones for the other two strands. And then the other thing you're going to notice here, and I'll just make this a tiny bit smaller, is that you'll see that it's this curriculum was broken up by division. So Div 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those are simply, that means this, is that Div 1 is kids in grades K to 3. Div 2 would naturally follow with grades 4 to 6. Div 3, grades 7 to 9. And Div 4, 10 to 12. So I'm going to use sort of a fictitious lesson, and this lesson is going to be a book report. Okay, so instead of kids writing out book reports by hand on paper or whatever, I would like them to break out their Chromebooks, and I'd like them to word process them using Google Docs. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to, right now we're in the category of communicating. Okay, so we need to scooch down past communicating and foundations to processes of productivity, which just happens to be on page 17. Okay, and so there's page 17 down here. And again, this is our category is productivity. And so what we're going to do, and again, because we're writing these book reports, I've already scoped this out before the video, is this is kind of what we're going to use. We're going to have kids typing these book reports, and then of course they're also going to use the thesaurus or the dictionary and fonts and bolding and italics and all that jazz. So some of the formatting features of a word processor. So what we're going to firstly do on our lesson plan is we would grab this text, okay? And on our lesson plan, we don't necessarily have it here, but we can either do one of two things. We can, I've added it here now, but you can either add it up here and put an ICT outcome up there. But for me, I'd like to have it in its own row. So all you got to do is just go insert a row below and then put in ICT outcome. Of course, if there are more, you would add an S. Okay. And so again, like I said, this is students will compose and revise text. So what I'm going to do, I've already got this sort of copied and pasted in another Google Doc. So what it would look like for us here is like this. Processes of productivity. You can use an arrow, right? Now I like to do them like this. P1, right? So coming back to process 1, okay? And then students will revise and edit text. Now that's a general learner outcome. We don't have to put a GLO thing in front of it. It'll be fine just like this. Okay, it also is not going to have to be bold in the end, but we'll just leave it like that for ease of viewing on your screen. Okay, the next thing we know is that, or I guess I didn't tell you, this is for grade, let's say 5. So this is going to be Div 2. So the next thing we're going to add is that division, and then we are going to say the following, that it's Division 2, Specific Learner Outcome 2.2. So that's going to look like this. I'll just copy it again out of my other Google Doc, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Okay, and again, students will revise. Oops, I copied that again. Oh, let me just get that out of there. There we go. Right, Div 2. Right, there's our division. We're going to do 2.2. There's 2.2. Create original text, blah, blah, blah. And don't forget that it is on page 17. So we need to add that as well. So once we unbold it or make it like regular text, it will look something like that. So that is how you're going to cite an ICT outcome on your lesson plan, whether it is the new curriculum lesson plan or you're the 7 to 12. You could do the same thing. You can either add another row or you can put it right in the outcome box. It is totally up to you. Anyways, hopefully this helps, and of course, like any other video, if it doesn't, then just reach out to me and I can help you in person in class, or we can set up some appointment or something like that. Okay? All right, thanks everybody.